Well, we may be on the precipice of superconductivity in room temperature and ambient pressure. Two papers were released today, pretty much from the same people, just with a different order of authors and different other things. They talk about achieving this material, which levitates in what's called the Meissner effect, and shows properties of superconductivity. And I think it's worth discussing in this room. So if you know somebody who understands the stuff way better and can explain it, because I think many people will be interested in it, if I'm basing the reaction correctly from Twitter, feel free to invite them here. Few rules, feel free to post links, feel free to discuss topics, feel free to gently correct folks if they don't know what they're talking about, like me. That's pretty much it. While you discover this topic, I suggest following Andrew. Some folks recommended in the Twitter space, recommended Andrew from Varda space, because they're trying to replicate the results of the superconductivity paper in real time almost, and live tweeting about this. So whether or not they'd be able to, definitely good follow for now.
It seems that it has been a long process and not without its difficulties if the tweet is correct. So also explains a bit about the two set of papers filed.
Folks, this whole thing is fascinating. The K-drama surrounding this, with multiple scientists spending 2 decades, early release by somebody who was ousted from this company, his release, their sequential, like actual paper release that was also probably ill-prepared 2 hours thereafter, to show that, you know, they're the source. Somebody's presenting at an international conference, but is declining to show evidence. There's a whole thing. And it's really fun to just follow whether or not it's going to be, you know, shaping out to be an actual earth-shattering discovery, the biggest scientific discovery for the, I don't know, last 20 years, if this shakes out. Just a fascinating follow. Here's what's currently known based on some sources. I've tried to collect them into a Twitter list that I can post afterwards. There's the 99 in LK-99 stands for the year when they came up with this. They did like 1,000 different experiments to come up with this. It's not like a stumble. They didn't stumble onto this. Both Lee and Kim, which are the LK from LK-99, both of them are scientists on both the papers. And they were disciples of this like one PhD who kind of came up with this in 99. And on his dying wish, he asked them to proceed with this because they all lost track of this somehow. And so they established this quantum research institute. One of them is the lead scientist. And they have been working on this for a long time. Then, and I'm not going to talk about timelines. A lot of this is unclear. A lot of this is in Korean. This is like what some folks sleuthed around the internet. The third guy. So there's Lee, Kim, and the third guy on the original, like the first paper, not original. His name is Kwon. He was added thereafter. He was the CTO of this institute. I'm not sure to which level he's the actual scientist, but definitely he's not part of the Lee Kim duo. He released this paper after he was ousted from this institute. So he released the paper a couple of days ago. He was ousted, and by ousted I mean he may be left, he may be fired, we don't know, for like around 4 months. So he's not affiliated with this institute anymore. And you know, you can start presuming why. I will just say all of this is internet sleuthing of people connecting different dots on Twitter, and so none of this may shake out. However, what's for sure known is that there was an international conference in Korea, I think in Seoul, called MML, that's about materials, and that conference didn't include anyone from this team or this research. And eventually Kwon, the guy who released the first paper, who the other two authors kind of disagree with the move. They went on public record, and interviewers asked them whether or not, the first paper is the right one. They said no, and they didn't agree with the process and wasn't ready. They didn't disclaim the science. They just said the paper wasn't ready. It wasn't peer reviewed. It's kind of like a battle of who takes credit to some extent, as it seems now. And Kwan, the guy who released the first paper, who is there together with Lee and Kim, he gave a talk at this MML conference. Apparently, he had the material with him, and apparently, he didn't present any Meissner effect, which is the levitation effect that has that exists in superconductors. I've compiled a Twitter list, and it's now been subscribed by more than 1,000 people, of folks who talk about superconductor and trying to figure out replication attempts in science, and yes, the human drama. And this is my guide to the folks who are talking about this, who's doing which perspective, and you guys are welcome to also read it.
Wow, whichever way this goes in the end, there will be a movie about it.
This Twitter Spaces is really, really excellent. I don't know if I'm just getting really suckered because this is just a kind of a perfect hoax, or this is just goddamn cool. But the Spaces really walks the line of being very kind of amateur, but also very insightful, and it's great. I don't know if you've listened to this, but this 2 hours is really, really interesting. This whole thing feels like optimistic sci-fi, right? Like, even if this is all a hoax, this is a perfect example of just, it's all good news. It's, there's villains here. If there are villains, there's heroes. If there's heroes, there's great science content and lots of optimism and hope. This is just such a wonderful news item. Holy shit, Alex, you are the Alex from the Spaces. Get out of here. Okay, that's crazy. That is wild. What an amazing Twitter Airchat overlap. Although I'm sure I followed you on Twitter because of Airchat, but maybe not. Either way, awesome work, man.